You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WYPC.
WCYTV.
Here on the Daily Signal.
Good evening and welcome to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated, first on 93 WIBC. We've got a lot to tackle, so without further ado, Chuck Grassley, the senator who just never seems to stop, has released yet another series of whistleblower documents. By the way, just to make this clear, I don't have an issue at all when people complain about politicians or federal officials getting too old. That's not my problem. I don't care if you're 35. I don't care if you're 95. Chuck Grassley is 92 at the present time. If you have the mental acuity and the sheer energy to ruin the lives of those misusing the power of the federal government, the bureaucracy, as it were, like under the Biden administration's Federal Emergency Management Agency, which we'll talk about in a minute. I don't mind if your face has another couple of wrinkles. If you get out there like Chuck Grassley does consistently, after you were told by, for example, Biden's director of FEMA, that, that whole not helping the House with the Trump sign in it, that was just a one-off incident, said Deanne Criswell in front of Congress. Well, that was all a big lie, but we'll get to that in a second, because that's not what good Senator Chuckles, the good kind of Chuck, not Schumer, has for us now. Chuck Grassley tweeted out, because, again, God bless X and Twitter and social media just posting it out so I don't have to dodge a paywall from the New York Times and their group of sad, depressed single editors. Quote, just received this doc from the Department of Justice. Proof that Biden Attorney General Merrick Garland, Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco, and FBI Director Chris Wray. You remember Chris Wray? The guy that we were all told should stay around forever? How dare Trump suggest he not stick around for eternity? How dare he? After all, Christopher Wray, I burn candles, for him, just like they did with Robert Mueller. Oh, God bless Christopher Wray and the weird boot licking that goes with him. These three individuals, Chris Wray, Lisa Monaco, and Attorney General Merrick Garland, not only were the three involved with opening the investigation of Arctic frost, in which the Federal Bureau of Investigation targeted a series of Republican senators and representatives for this Obamagate Russian collusion argument that Putin had gifted the election to President Trump. Not only did they then use that data as well as 2020 campaign data to then target people like Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA, a bunch of Christian organizations, a bunch of conservative organizations, a bunch of moderate organizations, and of course doing some things relating to wiretapping and tracking senators and representatives' locations. All highly illegal. Not only were those three involved with it, we now have official proof. Because, and by the way, when I mean official proof, I mean the handwriting, the very girly, feminine handwriting of Merrick Garland, Christopher Wray, and Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco. They were the ones who personally approved opening Arctic frost. This would later go on, by the way, to result in the FBI raid on Trump's home in Florida, Mar-a-Lago, in which FBI agents were authorized, if necessary, to use lethal force. So Biden's Attorney General, the guy that Obama wanted to be a Supreme Court justice, personally authorized and ordered Arctic frost to target anyone out there who believed in things like COVID being a product of the Chinese, who believed that there may have been some irregularities in the 2020 elections, who may have suggested that some of President Joe Biden's actions may have been illegitimate. The FBI, so don't tell me anything about this. Well, Trump's doing political persecution for going after Letitia James for her very allegedly criminal. I would, just covering our journalistic shadows over here, very blatant wire fraud and bank fraud and investment fraud. And about every other kind of mortgage fraud that we have a term for in the American legal dictionary. Yes, that's supposed to be really bad. But if, again, Merrick Garland, orders the illegal wiretapping and tracking of several Republican U.S. senators, not just the furthest to the right U.S. senators. We're talking some moderates out here. That's totally above board. Now, as a reminder, the original story on Arctic frost was that on April 4th, 2022, Timothy Thibault, a former FBI assistant director, known for his role in the Trump-Russia probe, you don't say, and criticized for, anti-Trump bias. Gee, an FBI agent who likely knew that Obama had personally ordered the information about Russia, keeping it really quiet, that Hillary Clinton was on Quaaludes and tranquilizers for her rampant bipolar mania. This guy was one of the agents in charge responsible for obstructing Congress certifications, obstructing congressional investigation, and of course, you betcha, directly tracking and obfuscating the constitutional responsibilities of 8 Republican senators and a bunch of representatives in Congress. That is going to result in indictments, that will. And for those out there who say, wait a minute, well, why are we only seeing lying to Congress charges brought forward against John Brennan of the Obama administration, or all the way back to his FBI guy? Why are we just seeing a couple of those particular indictments come down to lying to Congress charges? As I've said before, and I will continue to assert, based on the evidence at hand, it is all about legal discovery. It's all about legal discovery. Right now, you have to issue a FOIA, a Freedom of Information Act request. And you have to be very specific, and you have to hit the right words and the right date at the right time. And then after they charge you an arm and a leg and tell you it's going to take 346,000 hours to dig through a filing cabinet that's right next to their desk, they'll send you the document if you guessed magical super duper bingo Candyland correctly. But in legal discovery, the prosecution gets to go through every single document that is suspected of having to do with illicit activities you may have committed in the crimes charged or ancillary crimes charged, especially at the federal level. That is why the lying to Congress charges are a good place to start. Now, let's move along because, of course, God forbid there isn't another major scandal coming out of the federal government. Biden's FEMA director, Deanne Criswell, has now been referred to the DOJ for indictment. Why? Because according to a 22-page report that came out late yesterday, FEMA staff recorded a host of disaster victims' political beliefs and skipped over their homes because of their political beliefs, because of their religious affiliations, Christian, you guessed it, and of course, their skin color, because it's the Biden administration. In the official report, in Hurricane Milton in Florida, a FEMA supervisor, of course, told her staff to, quote, avoid homes advertising Trump. At least 20 families were skipped for aid before others were sent back later. Additionally, not just with Milton in Florida, Trump signs, people who are pro-gun, people who are anti-Biden, flying flags like Let's Go Brandon, the, bleep Joe Biden reference that plagued the Biden administration through his administration. Hurricane Helene in western North Carolina. Quote, systematic violations that unfairly targeted individuals across the country prohibited the collection of constitutionally protected information, underscoring a pattern of weaponizing federal power against Americans and abusing the trust placed in government institutions. So in case you're wondering what the legal print here in this documentation means, the Federal Emergency Management Agency under Joe Biden, in a series of natural disasters, not just in Florida, not just in North Carolina, but across the entire eastern seaboard and the southeastern United States, possibly back to even natural disasters into Texas. We do not know the level to which this goes yet. FEMA was breaking the 1974 Privacy Act and searching people like you, searching through your social media, your prior voting records, whether or not you were registered to vote in a primary in certain states, if that was allowed to essentially be designated a registered Republican in a certain state, whether or not you were part of certain Republican or conservative or right-wing moderate or Christian or Jewish adjacent organizations. And then if you did happen to be on that list, FEMA, in kind of an open secret, would say, well, maybe you get aid if we have any left over at the end. Essentially, the flight attendants would skip your seat when it was time for your food and snack. They would go all the way down to the rest of the plane. And then, if there was anything left over, they might toss you the old crinkle cracked up bag of pretzels that American Airlines last pulled out of that section of the cart in 1994. Radio crew, we got to send you over to commercial. We'll be back for y'all in a second. We're going to continue with this scandal on the live stream. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. Oh yeah, it also gets worse. FEMA tried to rationalize this by saying it was about avoiding hostile homes. Because of course we know how many FEMA agents have been shot in the past at a pro-Second Amendment house. Oh wait, there's nothing? Oh, that hasn't happened? Oh, gee willikers, how about that? Now, the Department of Homeland Security did issue a kind of expanded statement on this situation on Newsmax. I want to place on National Report.
I think most Americans can agree that if anything should be apolitical and nonpartisan, it should be disaster response when the American people need aid following a natural disaster. So to see the previous administration taking an organization like FEMA that's supposed to serve all Americans at all times without any political leanings and politicizing their response when hurricane strikes, when earthquakes strike, when fires rage through our country, it's really sad to see, and it just shows the institutional rot that exists within bureaucratic government at the highest levels, and it shows the dangers that rot can pose to the average American citizen. And to speak to your point, it's been really shocking to see the depth of this report and the types of houses that were being skipped over.
The depth of the report is the key. The types of houses skipped over, we've already talked about. But I want you to think about that as we finish out this clip here. The depth, the pervasiveness, the stench. How deeply did this rot go into FEMA, an organization that should be extremely apolitical?
Simply having a Trump campaign sign in your yard was enough to be denied aid by the federal government under the previous administration.
Okay, this brings us all the way back to, while some of my friends and colleagues on the right side of the aisle have been tut-tutting and clicking their tongues over the string of prosecutions from the Trump administration for the crimes of lying to Congress. John Brennan, James Comey, of course, now we can probably look at Merrick Garland. In the case of Joe Biden's FEMA director, Deanne Criswell, she passionately defended in Congress after multiple questions that although there were investigations still ongoing, she had looked through everything already. Essentially, she gave like a prejudgment, said, I haven't seen anything that suggests there's any kind of bias in our organization whatsoever. It was a one-off thing. And the lady that was at FEMA who was fired did in fact come back out and say it's in the entire organization. Now we find out via internal documents released, in part, of course, as always, due to earlier whistleblower reports by Chuck Grassley's office, because again, the man never rests. The Biden administration's FEMA agency, FEMA, the last letter in FEMA is agency. It's like the Los Angeles Angels.
CDL.
Yeah. So as far as the Biden administration's FEMA was concerned, it was an open secret. It just means that you don't explicitly state it in documentation and communications that they were not giving aid to anyone they considered on the right side of the aisle, unless there was some left over and they just couldn't, get into it later. It is without a doubt the argument for charging each and every person who for political means lied to Congress or obfuscated. That is a perfect reason to drag them in front of a federal judge, and they should get prison time for it. Because if going under oath means nothing, then there's no point to it at all. If going under oath means nothing and you can just get up there and go, well, I don't know anything at all that happened, then I guess we don't even need congressional hearings. Congress means nothing. Either things need to start having teeth. Let me put it this way. You only get to make the exception if people aren't abusing it. When I had students that would need to go to the bathroom, they'd say, Mr. Kinnett, I need to go to the bathroom. If this was a kid that had consistently been caught goofing around in the hallway, dropping in on other classrooms to show off in front of his friends, the answer would be no. Why? Because I'm against any kids going to the bathroom? No. Because normally, although the rules are you go during the passing period between classes, I'm willing to make exceptions for people who didn't maybe have all the information in front of Congress. But if we're playing by the rules and we're trying our best to be honest with Congress, maybe if you accidentally, the accidental perjuring of yourself, you thought it right, you misspoke, you got something wrong, then I'm willing to make an exception. But after decades of this festering crap, where for overtly biased political means, How many agencies, whether it's the FBI, whether it's the Department of Justice as a whole, whether it's the CIA, whether it's the NSA, whether it's the Department of Energy, whether it's FEMA, whether it's the Department of Education, whether it's the Attorney General, a Civil Rights Office, and the DOJ, the rot is that deep. We're going to have to swing back to the commercial side of things and pick up the radio crew there at the end of their break. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast, where we actually have new news regarding the government shutdown. Is it open yet? No. The government's not open.
There's a big surprise. That's an incredible. I think I'm going to have a heart attack and die from that surprise.
Okay, so the government's not open yet, but I remember saying, a good week and a half ago when we were earlier on into the shutdown, that in addition to Senator John Fetterman, Democrat of Pennsylvania, Catherine Cortez Masto of Nevada, and then Senator Angus King, not a Democrat, an independent, but he caucuses with the Democrats, that there would be additional purplish state Democrat senators who would start to flake off in maybe other votes, eventually building the momentum for the bipartisan ending of the government shutdown. Because right now, you have a lot of elections heading into 2026, and purple states are going to slaughter any kind of approval rating for a Democrat candidate. Senator, representative, dog catcher, doesn't matter. We're seeing that in Virginia, by the way, right now. Today, the Senate Democrats blocked a bill to pay service members and federal personnel currently working without a paycheck during the shutdown. So the Republicans put forward a bill in the House and said, okay, everybody in the federal government that's working and you're currently not receiving a paycheck, we're going to pay you right now because, even though the government is shut down as a whole, we still think that there's a lot of people that are trying their best right now. They should get a paycheck, all right? And the Senate Democrats blocked it, sort of. There were a few Senate Democrats who bucked the trend, and they're not the same as the ones who voted with Republicans to end the shutdown. John Fetterman, otherwise known as Senator Betterman of Pennsylvania, of course, the Democrat who is consistently voting against some of the crazier Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries ideas. He voted in favor of paying federal workers. And then we get to Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock of Georgia. Now that's interesting because Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock voting in favor of the paycheck thing means that they're willing to buck against the Democrat leadership in order to actually shove through some funding so they're not roasted alive in the next election, or there's a carryover effect that hurts other candidates running specifically in Georgia, which is looking worse for Democrats by the second. Trump's not telling people to stay home and not vote this time. Again, next year on the books is probably one of the biggest midterm political events ever in U.S. history. And I believe the first majorly recognized midterm Republican convention ever. And if that's done anywhere close in relative to putting attention to Georgia, Ossoff and Warnock are in some significant trouble over the next couple of years. Now, what does this mean? Why do I bring this up? If Warnock and Ossoff are able to vote against their colleagues on this, they will flake. They will end up taking John Fetterman's call. And eventually here, in the next couple of days, my little prediction, you will see John Fetterman, Catherine Cortez Masto, Angus King, Jon Ossoff, and then, last but not least, Raphael Warnock, the preacher, voting alongside Republicans, except for Rand Paul, to reopen the government. The more momentum that you get, the harder it will be for Democrats to essentially hold on for dear life forever. Now, Ossoff is under a lot of other criticisms because he's currently raking in mucho campaign dinero. So he's going to be under a lot of pressure anyway. Republican leadership understands this. That's why there are people like Representative Steve Scalise that are currently exposing why Ossoff is raking in all of the monies at the moment, trying to cash in on campaigning regarding this shutdown. Now, on the other side of the Senate, we have New Jersey Senator Cory Booker. He's mad, he's constipated, or at least it sure sounds like it. He's very, very angry. Why? Well, because SNAP benefits. He's mad about SNAP because SNAP's going to be running out in November, and that's a huge part of his, particular constituency. At least that's what he said before on the floor. So here he is going off about it today. He got his angry eyes on. Again, looks like he's dehydrated. Cory Booker.
So stop scrolling because this will shock you. Right now, the Trump administration has sent out notices to every single state, including New Jersey, that they are going to stop paying SNAP payments.
Well, yeah, because it's shut down. There's no money for it. It's not like Trump just woke up and like, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to take the SNAP payments and I'm going to, instead I'm going to chuck them at Marco Rubio. That's right. That's what we're doing. And also lasers. No, that's not what's going on here. But Cory Booker needs his little TikTok video, which we'll talk about later in the show.
Look, they have billions of dollars at their behest to pay SNAP, but they're saying that they don't.
Because they don't. The government's shut down. The government does not have the authority to move those monies in. Cory Booker is one of the Democrat senators who throws a Class 5 superstorm hissy fit. We're talking toddler not getting the Barbie in Walmart on the ground, rolling around fit. Whenever the Trump administration takes monies allocated by Congress and then uses them in the same department for something else. Now he's mad that Trump won't move some of the money from the Department of Labor or the Department of Energy into the SNAP program. He can't. James Boasberg, the judge in D.C., has been having an absolute screech fest over this for the last several months.
Let's talk truth. SNAP is a lifeline for 42 million Americans, disproportionately children, to pay for food assistance for them. In my state, over 850,000 people rely on SNAP payments. Donald Trump is withholding the money because he wants to inflict maximum pain on Americans.
You don't get to do that. You don't get to do that. Right after the Democrat House Minority Whip stepped forward from Massachusetts 5th and said, well, we know families are suffering, but that's our only leverage right now at this time. That's our leverage. You don't get to come say, well, Donald Trump wants to inflict pain. When you just voted against a bill to pay federal workers. You don't get to play both sides of this coin. I don't know. Maybe you don't think as clearly when you're constipated. Now, the constituents that he's talking about on SNAP, on food stamps, a couple of them are really, really, really mad. Now, you will remember Captain Steel Toes Cussy McGee from a couple of days ago. Well, we've got a new one. She's mad and she is excited for looting. And I'm sorry, as a kid who grew up in the Midwest, I wasn't handed everything. You know, we had some tough times where my dad was supporting us. There wasn't a lot of money to go around. And I never had this attitude, but maybe that's just me.
I want to be in the grocery store when they start looting it, because you think that people are going to be hungry? You think that these people not going to get their Thanksgiving? Baby, when they run up in there and start stealing them turkeys, oh, it's going to be like Christmas came early up in this. I want to see the first news story about somebody stealing a turkey, because you know that about to go down, and I wanna be front row for it, because I'm here for it. Get everything up out of the grocery store. Get it all.
So first of all, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's this really cool stuff called money that you get when you work a job. Really neat. Every 2 weeks, there's this magical envelope that shows up in exchange for your services. And then you can exchange that money for goods and services, like dollars. Then you can take those dollars down to your local Kroger's or Publix or Bodega. You can slap it down. And I know this is incredible. They then let you trade in those fancy pieces of cloth paper for the turkey. And then you can walk out with it. I know, incredible. It's new technology. We're still working out the kinks. But you can choose to just buy it. And I don't want to hear any whining about stereotypes when you're out here going, I hope they out here looting the stores. You don't get to play both sides. Sorry. Not sorry. Radio crew, will see you in a second. We got to send you to commercial. We have Cory Booker getting even angrier in Spanish on the live stream. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. Now, Cory Booker, he's mad. Again, I know. What is he mad about this time? Venezuela. He's mucho mad, as they say. And why is he mad? Because the Trump administration is continuing promoting Venezuelan drug running boats to submarine. So here's Cory yelling that no one's giving him the airstrike buttons.
When we took the extrajudicial step to blow up speedboats.
Extrajudicial means nothing in this context. We took the extrajudicial step. That doesn't mean anything. We took the photosynthesis step. No.
There has been no oversight into that claimed attack on people that were allegedly smuggling drugs. We are constantly not doing our job, which is not a partisan one. It is to hold this president in check, that no one operates without accountability and without transparency, because power is corrupting. And when you let someone do what they want to do, when they want to do it, without a check or a balance, it is corrupting. And we know.
There's just a couple of problems, but we'll just address the biggest elephant, the biggest constipated elephant in the room for Senator Booker here. I've actually reached out to a friend of mine on the House Oversight Committee, as the chief of staff for one of the Oversight Committee members. And they sent me, well, the title, they didn't send me the entire document, the title of the document from the Department of War, which essentially reports on the series of operations that have occurred in the Caribbean. So the oversight committees in the House and the Senate are getting updates. Besides that, they have like 60 to 90 days, if requested, to deliver things on those particular strikes. So again, if you're going to get mad about this, fine, whatever. You're going to get mad about Venezuelan boats getting, all right, fine. That's your prerogative. But don't say things that are so easily refutable. If you're going to be stupid, at least be quiet about it. So here's, of course, President Trump today saying what every American out there actually thinks about this.
And briefed them on the operations.
No, we will go. I
said. You will go, and
we
it would
will
be
go.
difficult for them to object.
I don't see any loss in going. No reason not to. You know, they'll always complain. Oh, we should have gone. So we're going to definitely. I'd like to just tell you, let's go. We'll go.
And Mr.
We're going to tell them what we're going to do, and I think they're going to probably like it, except for the radical left lunatics.
And Mr. President, if you are declaring war against these cartels, and Congress is likely to approve of that process, why not just ask for a declaration of war?
Well, I don't think we're going to necessarily ask for a declaration of war. I think we're just going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country. Okay? We're going to kill them. You know, they're going to be like dead. Okay?
Yes, that's what we voted for. Yes, that is absolutely, without any doubt, what I voted for. 100%. You don't need to declare war against not a state actor. You don't get to do that. It doesn't make any sense. Part of the reason that Congress actually declares war is because that involves the revocation of the ambassador's passport and visa. You go to the passport, you go to the ambassador, you take his passport, you take his visa and say, get out of the country because we're at war. Then he goes back and reports to his head of state, and now you're in a state of war. But I don't know if you guys know this, but the narco-terrorists don't have an official ambassador in the United States. They just have Ilhan Omar. And she's not an official ambassador. She's busy with her brother. Incredible. And don't try to revoke her passport. She falsified hers. So I don't know what to tell you. At this point, ladies, gentlemen, and the non-binary out of Delaware, I mean, at this point, if you really think that you're going to waltz into 2026 with firebombs for ICE agents, ramming vehicles, which we're going to talk about in a second, if you're going to swing into 2026 backing narco-terrorists, not just the, wife-beating Kilmar Abrego Garcia, but Venezuela narcos in general, best of luck to you. We got to bring the radio crew back from commercial. More in a second. Don't go anywhere. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast.
It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Feels like I'm losing it.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast, where the left has not discovered just yet that, well, number one, that I'm correct most often. And number two, more importantly, that acts of domestic terrorism, especially against American law enforcement, is not endearing to the general public. Now, I happen to remember a couple of weeks ago when we saw a series of ramming attacks. We talked to Julio Rosas and Nick Sordor, independent journalists who were down in the series of riots in Chicago and Portland. It's their specialty. That a new wave of attacks against immigration customs enforcement, against U.S. Marshals, against Border Patrol, involves ramming vehicles into ICE agents and the various other kinds of federal law enforcement, using their cars as weapons. And I said, because Democrats have not directly condemned this and state actors have not taken steps to say, wow, there's this person who's been following federal law enforcement around in their vehicle. Maybe we should go arrest them. Because state law enforcement has not stepped up, because state leadership has not done their job, you were going to get more of these kinds of terror attacks. You say, Tony, why do you call it a terror attack? The definition of terrorism legally is committing an act of violence or intimidation in order to affect political change. Meaning this, you're not actually targeting the ICE agent because, well, he's your ex and you're still really mad that he kept your Taylor Swift CDs. No, when you are attacking an entity, a member of said entity, in order to intimidate and affect political change, that's terrorism. It is definitionally an act of terror. And as we have seen in Western Europe, where the number one import is wheat and the number two import is Islamic migrants, we have seen a series of vehicle-driven terrorist attacks that have resulted in dozens and hundreds dead, depending on the events in various cities, all the way from Germany to France. Now, when you look at the United States, we've seen that over here as well, and it's not slowing down at any time. We see these kinds of things in Chicago, for instance, where individuals are following various ICE officials in their vehicles, and they are blocking in the federal agents, and if the federal agent tries to go anywhere, they just ram right into him. This is also happening in San Diego, and it is actually getting law enforcement injured and perhaps killed.
3 federal officers have been hurt after a driver who ICE claims is in the country illegally allegedly rammed one of their cars. It happened yesterday in San Diego. According to the ICE San Diego field office, he was wanted in his home country of Kuwait and has a violent criminal history. The officers and the man were treated at a local hospital. ICE says it will be pursuing criminal charges.
I mean, yeah. Ramming your vehicle into federal agents should, in fact, result in criminal charges. No kidding. More at 11. I'm sorry. I have no sympathy for local news TV anchors who think they're so pretentious. They will be pursuing criminal charges. Yes, thank you, Janet. I'm sure that journalism degree was worth every single penny. Sorry, I knew a lot of these fools during my master's degrees program at Ball State. They got a broadcasting degree, and some of those students think that their poop doesn't smell. They're like God's gift to the screens. Anyway, this, of course, is not the only series of cases. Earlier this month in Chicago, more federal agents that are being rammed by individuals in domestic terror incidents, attempting to harry, basically trying to get the vehicle to be impeded and obstructed to the point where it no longer runs, so that then, and it always happens like this, within about 30 or 40 seconds of the accident, immediately, a riot descends on the scene. People swarm onto the scene and surround the vehicle. Now, I'm no, incredible French detective over at the Louvre. I'm just a regular guy here broadcasting. And I'm going to make this rather, astute observation. If protesters are descending on the scene of a car accident within 30 to 40 seconds of the car accident, that was planned. That was coordinated. This is, again, more attacks in Chicago. Individuals immediately swarming the federal vehicles. You can see, if you're watching the live stream, the Mexican flag that's painted. We have the volume down because people are saying rather unfriendly things. And as individuals consistently ramp up violence, it will only get worse. Now, what are the state officials doing? Well, they're issuing prosecution threats. Oh no, not to the people committing actual acts of violence, the kinds that, get detainees shot, killed, maimed, because detainees are also hurt in these car ramming accidents because the liberal protesters and rioters, they don't give a crap about the individuals inside the vehicle who are detained. Those individuals, you would think, are the targets of prosecution threats by local authorities. Hey, stop treating our, cities like Fast and Furious. Come on, it's family. No, none of that at all. According to a statement from former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who they are desperate to call Speaker Emerita, as long as we're making up really cool nicknames for yourself. Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett cast. I'm the Destroyer McCool. Anywho, Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi and Congressman Kevin Mullen, who I can only describe as someone who looks like he's perpetually being cheated on, issued this statement on the reports of a planned major immigration operation in the San Francisco Bay Area. If they're going to issue a statement to federal law enforcement, I think it should be watch where you step. A lot of needles and poop in San Fran. Here was the actual statement, quote, reports of a planned mass immigration raid in the Bay Area are an appalling abuse of law enforcement power. Broad sweeps that target families and terrorize law-abiding residents betray our nation's values and waste resources that should focus on real threats to public safety. And I would maybe give them a little bit of leeway here if after every one of these raids, there weren't dozens of individuals who have committed serious sexual offenses towards the families and children that people like Nancy Pelosi claim to be protecting. Quote, it is important to note that California law protects communities and prevents federal agents from taking certain actions here that we have witnessed in other states. While the president may enjoy absolute immunity courtesy of his rogue Supreme Court, those who operate under his orders do not. Our state and local authorities may arrest federal agents if they break California law, and if they are convicted, the president cannot pardon them. Lady, thy name is Fort Sumter. You can't do that. The federal law enforcement in this country has the authority to uphold federal law. You don't get to... I'm sorry, but Sheriff Buford T. Justice can't stand in the way of federal law enforcement and go, this is my jurisdiction. Beat it, pal. You can't do that. That's not a thing. Gavin Newsom may think he's really hot, tough, and fresh on his Twitter account, but when the federal agents come a-knocking, I'm afraid that you don't have any authority. What are you going to do? Call up the National Guard? Oh, Trump already federalized those. Incredible stuff. Oh, what, J.B. Pritzker? Oh, he's done what every valiant, fat Illinois Democrat is decided to do. He's forming a commission. This may be the first Illinois Democrat commission that isn't just the mob. Or maybe it is. We're not entirely sure. Here's J.B. Pritzker announcing his super duper ultra pooper scooper ICE investigation commission.
Reveal to the public in Chicago, the state of Illinois, across the nation, and around the world, the facts on the ground about what is happening here. We intend to create a detailed record of the truth. And once this all ends, people of good faith will review what this commission has gathered and will demand accountability. Indeed, people are demanding that accountability. You all share a commitment to justice, transparency, and the rule of law. The Honorable, for 6 of those years, he served multiple terms on the U.S. Sentencing Commission, appointed by President Bill Clinton and then reappointed by President George W. Bush.
So he starts going through the rich pedigrees of all of these individuals on this super ultra extreme Justice League commission, who he's going to use to target and dox and then prosecute federal law enforcement. You can't do that. There are laws on the books regarding protecting federal agents carrying out law enforcement. There's nothing whatsoever that gives Governor J.B. Pritzker the right to do this. Never stopped him before. Although, perhaps ironically, an illegal alien from Venezuela being harbored by the sanctuary policies of J.B. Pritzker was just arrested in Illinois. Why? Oh, he committed 4 home invasion rapes and has been arrested 5 times since June while on pretrial release under J.B. Pritzker's cashless bail system. And then Pritzker attempted to shield this individual, again, who committed 4 home invasion rapes from ICE deportation. Radio crew, we got to send you off to commercial. We're going to continue on the live stream. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. Now, in really, really disturbing news on the other coast, on Portland, there are some Oregon outlets, like the Oregonian, that are losing their mind because there is this individual named, this sounds made up, Quinn Haberl, who they are claiming is just a poor, innocent, blind man who ICE was arresting and searching. Now, when the ICE officers were searching him, because, he actually committed some crimes and assaulted ICE officers, etc., he decides to do what all brave progressives do. He calls one of the ICE officers the N-word, like with the hard R, like just, I mean, goodness gracious. I had to look around for a mint julep for a second. This one came straight out of the South in like 1836. Here you go.
There's nothing in my socks, dumb. My feet are too small. What the do you think I'm gonna put in there? God, you guys are dumb. What? Hey, what? Talk to me. Talk to me. Talk to me.
Ah, yes. Calling the federal officer arresting you the N-word. Now, that's a bold move. Now, this is a white guy. I was told that was wrong. Again, the Maine Democrat Senate candidate with the Nazi tattoo. You've got other Democrats around the country like Sheldon Whitehouse and his whites only country club. And now you've got this fantastic winner. Oh, I'm sorry. You say, what else is special about this, you may ask? Oh, yeah. He was on video yesterday. Well, we had the clip downloaded. We didn't have time to play it. Before he got arrested, here he is. This is so gross. If you're watching this, I'm sorry. I don't want to describe this to those on the podcast. He is out holding what appears to be like a kind of a shepherd's stick made to look kind of like a cross, like a priest staff kind of a situation. He has on like a baggage handler high-vis vest and what's in his mouth? A pacifier, because he has a baby kink. All of God's people said, ew. And the guy next to him in the skeleton pajama bottoms is screaming at the people filming him because they're apparently slut-shaming the balding George Costanza-looking person for sucking on a pacifier. So a smidgen of American culture, if you will.
Tongue twister, dude. Doesn't know what fetishes are? Yeah. Tommy!
Guys are sexual deviants.
You're a Christian? Who would Jesus knock the out?
Portland is fine. Remember the Portland mayor recorded a video of herself up against a bridge in the most gentrified part of town, playing YouTube stock music to say how wonderful everything was? I really, really am enjoying watching the Democrat strategy here. Letitia James, currently under investigation for every kind of fraud, except without the panache of the Wolf of Wall Street. She's out here saying that also she's going to go after all of the federal agents in New York because she's rough and she's tough and she's probably going to be behind bars pretty soon. Here's Letitia James, ready to fight.
Attorney General Letitia James announcing a new portal where residents can send photos and videos of ICE operations. James says the portal is meant to review and investigate legal violations by agents, and her statement referenced Tuesday's immigration raid in Chinatown in New York City. Meantime, House Democrats say they will launch their own similar ICE tracker. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi criticizing that effort, citing a sharp increase in violence against law enforcement.
So good for Letitia, I'd say. If you're going to be stupid, by all means, do it right before some really big elections. I'm here to watch Letitia James attorney generaling her way to being the least liked person in the country. We got to swing to the commercial side, pick up the radio crew. Don't go anywhere. Tony Kinnett Cast.
It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
All right, a lot of news today. Unfortunately, we do have to get to perhaps the most annoying section of the show, which is where everyone out in the wide beyond of political wilderness has decided to take their frontal lobe and chuck it into the nearest trash and or recycling bin. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. It's kind of getting to the point where it really just grinds my gears.
You know what really grinds my gears?
So we're going to talk about things that grind my gears here at the end of the news roundup for the day, because some of these things are particularly egregious. From The Atlantic, they have posted a brand new article of our friend Jack Posobiec, calling him MAGA's next top influencer. Quote, Charlie Kirk's death left a void on the right. Jack Posobiec looks better positioned than anyone to fill it, by Ali Breland. Now, I've talked to Jack. In fact, I was with Jack the day before Charlie was assassinated. Nothing that he has said has been ambitious about going out there and taking over after Charlie. There have been a lot of people who have picked up the torch to finish out Charlie's speaking tours. And all I have seen Jack do so far is amplify them. But let's even say that he was stepping up into the role, taking kind of a board position at Turning Point, and he was going out there to try to further on Charlie's stuff. Articles like this are begging for Jack to be the next one to be assassinated. That is exactly the kind of filth that this is. You say, Tony, how do you know that? Well, because a year ago, they wrote the exact same thing about Charlie Kirk. Oh, yes. 1 year ago, the right's new kingmaker. Charlie Kirk can speak to all factions of the GOP like few others can. Who's it by? Allie Breland. You cannot possibly tell me they didn't know this is deeply disgusting and irresponsible. How do I know that? Because whenever someone on the right so much as makes the OK symbol, whenever someone on the right so much as has something that can be vaguely alluded to, some kind of a sort of inside joke that may be taken a certain way, presto, it's a dog whistle to super Nazi fascism and white supremacy extreme. Which, by the way, of course, completely waters down real events of individuals saying really gross stuff, but that's another matter for another time. They know exactly what they are doing with this particular nonsense. Now, on kind of a lighter note here, to move on, because we got to send the radio crew out to the end of broadcast soon. Abigail Spanberger, running for Virginia's gubernatorial race, she's having a rough time as the Democrat candidate. Former CIA officer who's known for backing men in women's locker rooms, her Attorney General Democrat colleague, Attorney General hopeful Democrat colleague Jay Jones, who sends lovely texts about wanting political opponents, wife and kids dead, as well as a bunch of cops dead as well. And then, of course, wanting medical assisted suicide to be a standard Virginian Commonwealth policy. She has done what I consider to be the most unconscionable thing a politico can do. She has released a TikTok video like Cory Booker has. I hate these so much. I would like you to suffer just like I have to. Abigail Spanberger, here you go.
Hey, Virginia, stop scrolling. I've got some important information for you. Tomorrow is the deadline to register to vote in advance of our November 4th election. You want to go ahead and check your registration, make sure that you're registered to vote.
No, I want to go ahead and slit my wrists and make sure that I'm no longer around to see these ridiculous... Quit doing this. Quit doing that. Quit recording TikTok videos. You're 35, you're 40, you're 55, whatever. Quit doing this. You're an adult. Leave it to the weird, sexually ambiguous kid that your office hired. You don't need to get out there and do this stuff. I despise it when it's on the left, when it's on the right. Hey guys, stop scrolling. I'm cool and hip. Look, I'm at a state fair eating an elephant ear. Whoa! I'm tired of it. It's ridiculous. It annoys me more than anything. I say, Tony, it doesn't annoy me. That's just part of the game. It's really, really annoying when someone from the political realm tries to tell you, I'm just like you. I too put my pants on one leg in the morning. I've only had 3 affairs since March, and I'm under investigation for wire fraud. Also, I'm dating the prosecutor. I'm Fannie Willis. Stop! You don't have to do it. Hey, buddy, Sanders here with another really cool dance for all of you old socialists. AOC taught me to boogie down. Stop it. I sound like Jerry Seinfeld. Stop it! Kramer, the old people are making reels again. They have to, Jerry. It's part of the political process, Jerry. Sorry. And last but certainly not least, James Carville, who a couple of months ago was saying Democrats out there who are calling Trump a Nazi and a fascist and a really big stinky McBad end of times man, they are doing the entire party a huge disservice. I wish they'd stop it. He has now come out and announced that he wants anyone who supported Trump or is a Republican to have their heads shaved and marched down the street to be spit on for being collaborators. This is the biggest, I hope for, Nazi concentration camp dog whistling. You want to talk about real dog whistling ever? Don't take my word for it. Here, listen to this.
You know what we do with collaborators,
right?
And I my fantasy dream is that this nightmare ends in 2029, And I think we ought to have radical thing. I think they all ought to have their heads shaven. They should be put in orange pajamas, and it should be marched down Pennsylvania Avenue, and the public should be invited to spit on them.
Give them a star, like a 6-pointed one made out of 2 triangles to wear so everyone knows who they are.
All of these collaborators should be shaved, pajamaed, and spit on.
That's a weird kink. I don't think we needed to know that.
It's a moral judgment.
Yeah.
If you bend the knee to a criminal tyrant, and that's what he is. Understand, he is a criminal. 34 convictions would have been a lot more. Okay.
Sorry, I do love, he finishes out by talking about how much dishonor. He's like, this is dishonorable. It's dishonor on you.
All right, that's it. Dishonor. Dishonor on your whole family. Make a note of this. Dishonor on you. Dishonor on your cow.
Stop.
Incredible stuff. I'm thrilled that even the Democrats who previously said, you got to stop all of this. Everything is about race. Everything is about your gender. Everything is about illegals and backing up crime. Now that man has become just as bonkers, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, insane as the rest of them. Now, Radio Crew, we have to send you out for commercial, but it's to show you how far they've fallen. James Carville is now synonymous with Joy Reid. So Radio Crew, we'll see you guys later. Head over to the live stream, finish the show. A little bonus tonus this evening. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. Radio side, you take care. Now here's Joy Reid just acting like a complete melon. Because, you know, Joy Reid is kind of a lot like just a big dorky melon.
Oh, and I almost forgot. We also have money to bail out the nation of Argentina, which is in a fiscal crisis despite all the money you gave them with your taxes. And to blow up fishermen in the Caribbean Sea. Perfect. Plenty of money for those things. Just no money for you. Make America great again.
I'm just a little concerned that every single person in the Democrat Party is increasingly growing into the crackhead outside of Speedway at 3:35 a.m. muttering to themselves until you come by the door. And they're like, I'll tell you what I think. I'm thinking the moon, it's made out of lemons. And the lemons, they're for you. And you're just like, I want to just buy a Gatorade and like a energy drink and leave. And they're like, I already bought the energy drink. I named it Carl. And you're like, oh my gosh, I need a shower. That's what Joy Reid has become. Of course, Argentina is on the other side of South America. Argentina has nothing to do with U.S. naval operations, and I'm pretty sure that fishing boats don't have extra fuel storage and 5 outboard motors with no fishing boats. So unless it's Jesus commanding the disciples to rev down the Mercury engine and toss their net into the ocean and draw in the fishes, I just don't think that's the case. Beautiful. Last but not least, on the grinding of the gears for the day, is Candace Owens. Candace Owens has gone from a very talented speaker who never read, who never paid attention to anything other than what the comments on her videos were saying, to saying that it was Israel that killed Charlie Kirk, to then saying, well, actually, it was someone in the state government who sold out Charlie, to then going back to saying it was Israel, to then saying that Charlie appeared to Candace in a dream and said something is up. Now today, Candace Owens has stepped it up a notch. She is alleging that Donald Trump and Erica Kirk conspired to kill Erica's husband, Charlie. Here you go.
Just really needed to just take a breather and really process everything that happened with Charlie and what it kind of means in terms of where we are. And I think it is a circumstance where we just know that he was truly betrayed in one of the most egregious ways that I think I've ever seen. It has made me lose faith in politics. It has made me fully lose faith in Trump. And my heart aches for the fact that he gave so much of his life to Trump and to politics. And they just were like, nope, that is it. It serves us or it doesn't serve us and we want to move on. And so here's a holiday. Bro, if they try to give me a holiday, what is with them giving people a holiday after they kill them?
Okay, so just a couple of notes here. For those out there who think through things, Charlie Kirk was a major supporter of Donald Trump. Charlie Kirk tried to convince me via text to be a bigger supporter of MAGA and Donald Trump in general. It worked, by the way. To be explicitly clear, you might be wondering, why would Charlie Kirk and Erica Kirk, who by all intents and purposes was living a very wonderful life with Charlie, was happy, went on several podcasts to talk about it. Why would Trump kill Charlie Kirk? You might say, well, I have no idea why. It's right, because there's no actual reason or motive for doing that whatsoever. There's no motive. This is just as insane as the Russiagate stuff and the P tapes. This is just as insane as well, Donald Trump's trying to build a ballroom so he never leaves. Wahahaha. It's pure insanity. Now, you might be out there and say, Tony, she's asking questions. She's noticing things. A few minutes later, Candace Owens has started trying to convince her crowd, who at this point, I'm convinced, should just be to whatever padded wall. This is why mental institutions are genuinely important. I'm not trying to mess around or joke at this point. I'm genuinely concerned for those around her. She's trying now to convince the world that Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and other kind of like technology technocrats are Nephilim demon hybrid robots. Nephilim demon. Okay, so Nephilim, people who bred with fallen angels before the flood. Demons, not those. Demons would be something entirely different. Those would be fallen angels themselves. Hybrid robots. I'm sorry, Mark. I can't let you do that. Here you go. The hybrid robot conspiracy. Go.
Leading people into AI, I have always sensed this demonic, because I'm telling you, I don't even think these people are human. Like, I look at Elon Musk and Sam Altman and Peter Thiel, and I'm pretty sure they're hybrid. You know what I mean? Like, they just look like an Apple software that I should be able to download at night, you know? Like, my phone's getting an update or something. It's something in the eyes. Like, I don't know. I'm like, I know I'm human, but I don't know if I stabbed you if you bleed, you know? I'm not going to stab them, but I don't know if they bleed all the way. I think a battery would fall out. You know what I mean? And I just get that sense. I've always known it was demonic. And people just get on board because, as we talked about in this book, they are using science and this idea of technology and this idea of transforming society for the better to indoctrinate us into accepting this. And it's wrong and it's backwards. And the main component of all of this is psychology. Right?
Yes, Candace Owens, master of psychology, who, by the way, looks more like AOC right after she drinks 3 cups of coffee every day. She looks a little bit more like AOC, which is, producer Nick, I think you had some wise words for us.
It sounds like her real issue with these individuals is that they're autistic. How they look in the eyes, how they act, they're socially awkward. It's not that they're robots. It's that they just don't want to look at you because you're kind of crazy and it makes them uncomfortable.
So I do want to point this out because we got a comment that said that, well, Candace Owens, she won her, we're going to hit that comment here in a second. Candace Owens, apparently, there was a comment, she won her case against Macron and Macron's wife. No, she is not. She's not. Candace Owens, who said Emmanuel Macron's wife is a dude, and then got into this huge legal battle because Macron's wife sued her. She did file a motion to dismiss the Macron's defamation lawsuit against her in Delaware Superior Court, arguing a lack of jurisdiction since she resides and operates in Tennessee. Yeah, that's not how that works. That's not. Officer, I could say they were a giant purple gorilla because they live in Nevada and I live in Indiana. And I looked on the map. They're not next to each other. I saw it on my Fruity Loops. No, you can't. The court case has not been dropped. Also, the argument that, I'm sorry, there was one, I'm sure it was trolling. If this is a joke, JR, Rod, whatever, foreign dark money is trying to take down right side podcasters of influence. Yes, this is it. Yeah. This foreign influence. This is Benny Netanyahu. He's doing it. He's sitting over there and is going, yes, I'm going to get him. Yes, I know what I'll do. I'll send the robot Elon Musk back in time. Candace, we've got to go to Mars. You have to trust the AI. We got to get out of here. Go. It's a great movie. Incredible. I'm thrilled. I can't wait. Going all in on Kanye West and Candace Owens was always going to be like that, because no matter who they are, when you get out there and say, oh, they have a voice, but they're the right color and gender, you make mistakes. I never had to look at Condoleezza Rice and wonder whether or not she was a DEI hire, because Condoleezza Rice, even if I disagree about her about a lot of things, is incredibly competent. I don't have to look at Clarence Thomas and go, wow, look at like, he was just picked because he was a black guy. No, he had to fight tooth and nail against Joe Biden in the Senate in order to be appointed and confirmed. Ketanji Brown Jackson, you don't have to wonder on that one. Candace Owens, you ain't got to wonder on that one. Sorry. Just, oh, she's so brave. She started Blexit. Okay, incredible. Yippee. Yeah, she's gone off the deep end like she threw it into the highest gear possible and shot off that dock and didn't wait for the missile for her Venezuelan boat. She sunk herself. Big yikes. Big yikes. And by the way, I do agree with comment Desiree. She needs prayers. Something's not right. Understatement of the century, indeed. So those things said, producer Nick, did you have anything else to add before we wrap up? I'm sorry. Just for Candace, just one more time.
All right, that's it. Dishonor on your whole family. Make a note of this. Dishonor on you. Dishonor on your cow.
Stop.
Add that to the Michael Jordan video. Stop it. Get some help. Producer Nick.
To wrap up, all I would say is don't let the downfall of people that you admire so much ruin some of the work that they've done in your eyes. Candace has done some pretty great stuff, but her slow descent is quite disappointing.
That's very true. There are a lot of people that I have, previously admired for things that I really appreciate for things that they have done either for me or have just done in general. That doesn't make you immune. Guys, God forbid there may be one day when I walk out here onto the set and I start telling you that J.B. Pritzker is a space wheel from Omega Cron 3 and he's out here to steal Julia Child's recipe book and set up the kingdom of Genovia. I could say that. And if maybe you like things that I've done in the past, and it may break your heart. I sure hope you don't care about me that much. But if it breaks your heart and go, well, maybe I like Tony so much, maybe he's right. You know what? We all suspend a little bit of disbelief when someone that we like says something. But, Marjorie Taylor Greene has said some pretty great stuff in committee. Now she is nuttier than, I don't know if I'm running out of analogies, Nick. It really is that bad with some of these goobers. But I think that's a really good point. I agree, appreciate it. And with those wonderful things said, we appreciate you here at the Tony Kinnett Cast. You can shoot us an email over at tonykinnett.com, TonyKinnett.com. The extra T in Kinnett's for extra talent. You send us a message, we'll read it. We might respond to it. Your kind comments, your really angry comments, where you say I look like a far uglier Matt Walsh. True. Fair. Either way, at the end of the day, we're glad that you're tuning in here, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Rumble, X, whether it's on the radio or the TV side who aren't tuning in now because that broadcast time is over, or on the podcast. We like you here on the Tony Kinnett Cast. We'll be back tomorrow, same great time, same great place. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated and first on 93 WIBC. Take care.